Well, in digital media, ad tech, we love acronyms and we love new trending concepts. Curation has been rising for probably the last couple of years, particularly the last 6 months. And curation is really the ability to distill down a huge amount of inventory into a digestible, understandable, targetable amount of inventory that an advertiser would really want to target and would want to reach their audience. So we've spent the first, half, maybe 3/4 of programmatic, creating trillions and trillions and trillions of ad requests. There's so much haystack that you can almost not see the needles. And so curation has come along because you need to pare that down and find the needles in the haystack. And so curation is just an outcrop of the fact that it's gotten so big. Advertisers need assistance, the ecosystem needs assistance to curate down what is the good stuff or the stuff that the advertisers really need to reach.
So would you say it helps to make the marketplace more transparent in any way, or?
It certainly helps transparency. It allows for you to get more of what you actually want. And there's a lot of different ways to do it. So you have opportunities to use data signal that may or may not be relevant to what you're trying to target. So there could be data signal. In our case with Infolinks, we're a unique ad placement. We're, as Jones defines us, as a premium proprietary ad placement on the publisher's site directly. So what that allows us to do is have a very distinct set of ad inventory that we control, that we curate. So that inventory is unique to us. And we've identified the very specific placements that create 80% of the performance. And so what we've learned over time in the Infolinks case is that of all these ad units that exist on publishers, very few of them drive 80% of the performance. So we've curated down to the units and the data signals that drive that performance, and that's how we've curated it. Others use different signals. They find other ways to target the audiences and limit it down, but that's the way we've focused on it.
Interesting. So looking at the signals that are important, which ones really predict if an ad placement will succeed?
Sure. So a website today, or CTV, but particularly a website, is a very busy place. I think everybody would sympathize with me when I say when we go to a website today, we're inundated with ads. Sometimes you have ads overlapping each other. Sometimes you have, as you're scrolling down, you have ads that are lazy loading and they don't really get an opportunity to show the impression. You have a tremendous amount going on a publisher today, and that can be infuriating to the audience, but it's the publisher doing their best trying to execute the ad experience to earn as much revenue as possible so that the publisher can be successful. So the signals that you need to look for are what actually in that experience are the ads that are going to actually get viewability, they're actually going to get click-through rate, they're going to actually get audience attention and engagement. And with so much going on, that tends to be only 20% of the units that are on the page. And which 20% is that? And you've got to look at things like scrolling, bounce rate, time on page, session depth. There's numerous factors that we look at, but we pick these very specific placements that are going to drive that 80% of performance and avoid the rest.
That's interesting. When I think about my own behavior and what ads I click on, I don't know, part of it is driven by the creative, or I'm in the market for something, or I like the brand. What can you tell me about the way that it works ideally, or the way you see it working to reach somebody like me?
Sure. So first of all, you have to start with, do you see the ad, right? And we all know the experience on a mobile device. Desktop's a little different, but on a mobile device, our thumbs move at rapid pace as we're scrolling down. And a lot of times as that thumb is moving, we're sort of know what the ad looks like. We kind of understand this construction of an ad. So the average consumer looks at that construction, they will fly by it just to get back to the text content or maybe the video content that they were watching. So it's almost like a form of ad avoidance. And this behavior is what you want to adjust for the advertiser. And that's one of the things that we do, is try to curate those placements and the behavior so that, first of all, you actually see the ad. Because it doesn't matter how amazing your creative is, if it's not seen or it's not paid attention to long enough, it's not going to be effective. So the first thing is to make sure that the ad itself has an opportunity to be seen. the ad itself not only just gets to be seen, but it's seen long enough to get into your consciousness. Because we can measure something that's seen, but your thumb is rapidly scrolling, it wasn't really seen. And so there's a difference between getting viewability and getting attention. And so when you take all those factors into account, once you have established that, then the advertiser has an opportunity to actually show good creative, do dynamic creative optimization, do good targeting, and get performance. So once all that comes together, you have a better curated experience for the advertiser to get results.
Wow. Now, I've heard this phrase, sustainable advertising.
Sure.
I guess when I hear sustainability, I think about, I don't know, climate change and stuff like that. But I think you're talking about something else. Could you tell us what it is and what parts of it drive ROI?
Sure. Yeah, no, you're right. Sustainability is really a form of measuring how much activity is happening and how much emissions are being generated. Scope 3 has done an amazing job of participating in measuring how many requests, how much activity is happening on a publisher, and whether or not that is a sustainable, in a good way or a bad way, site. And so, something we've done uniquely is we only work direct with publishers. We only put our ad units specifically on the publisher, and this allows us to only create one request going upstream. So it minimizes the amount of server time, the amount of requests, basically bringing emissions really low. So it's a very difficult thing to do because you have, going back to what we were saying earlier, you have trillions of requests going on in the industry, and you have tons of ad placements on a publisher, and everybody's got a good reason for that, but it creates a lot of emissions. So how can you do it more efficiently to reduce the emissions? And one of the ways we do that is to make sure that we're always direct with the publisher and we're always direct with the buyer.
Great. Well, Bob, I know we've covered a lot here in the last few minutes. Looking ahead, let's say the next 6 months to a year, is there anything that the industry needs to be aware of, or anything that you're excited about, or conversely may keep you up at night that people really should be afraid of?
Well, I think if we're looking at a timeline of the next 6 months to a year, I think we're going to see that curation becomes more mature. I think that we're going to see that it's an opportunity for both advertisers and publishers to limit down and make the market more effective, because ultimately the open web, which is the main market that I'm addressing, the open web really needs to come together and find a way to be very, very, very successful and drive outcomes so that it can compete with the walled gardens. And that collective of people, my belief, is going to go from a more fragmented, more fighting with each other kind of environment to collectively coming together to make the open web very competitive against the walled garden environment. And that next 6 to 12 months is going to be pretty critical.